of the Inmate Integrated Management System project. Let me start with the apologies. Are there any apologies? We know that the chair, Honorable Janji and Honorable Ngola, in the Section 194 committee meeting. So for today, I'll be the acting chair for this subcommittee. Are there any other apologies? No apologies. Can I now invite the...
Sorry, Chair. Honorable Horn had a family emergency that he had attended to yesterday and today. So he might join a bit later, but maybe not. We'll have to see that.
Yes, I saw him joining.
I am here at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so thank you. In any event, I was unsure whether I would be able to join, but I am here.
Okay. Is everything fine, Honorable Horn?
Yes, thank you, Chair. As good as it can be.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Can I now invite the National Commissioner to lead us?
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, for the opportunity for us to appear before the Portfolio Committee for a presentation on the Integrated Inmate Management System. I'm going to request, through your indulgence, Honorable Chairperson, that the acting Chief Deputy Commissioner for IT, our GITO, Mr. Mihwe, makes the presentation to the Portfolio Committee. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Okay. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mamo Mihwe.
Good morning, Chair, Honorable Chair. Good morning, honorable members.
I thought you missed. My apologies. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Chair, and all protocol observed. Greetings to my colleagues. The presentation is on the Integrated Inmate Management System. As part of the IT modernization program, what we have provided the Portfolio Committee members, the purpose is just is to provide the context of the IMS itself, the progress that we have made in terms of implementing it and rolling it out, as well as the way forward, considering the position that we are in with the project. Next slide, Chair, Honorable Chair, is the this year's context. This basically gives the context of the rollout of the IMS across the 243 correctional centers and 218 community corrections offices across a population of close to 160,000 inmates, and also an additional 60,000 that is attributed to parolees, probationers, and awaiting trials. So that's the scope of what IMS is supposed to cover in terms of the inmate population. And to date, IMS has been rolled out to 45 sites, less one site that has since been deactivated, not closed due to renovation. So it is active now in 44 sites. That is hosting unsentenced inmates only. And Honorable Chair, the current the concept of IMS is therefore to implement a is therefore to implement a centralized inmate database, and also seeks to support the goal of achieving the single view of an offender through the once-off or single capture of an inmate, and also it's a one-stop shop for inmates, parolees, professionals, and offender registration. Next slide, Chair. The history of IMS is such that it was contracted through an open tender in 2015, and for a period of 3 years. It was further extended by another 12 months due to the non-completion thereof. That ended in 11th of January 2020 at no additional cost to the department. We called that an extension period. So as a total, the IMS project, the contract was 378 million at inception, of which 68% of it has already been paid for it, about to the amount of 259 million. Out of that 259 million, 142 of it is the framework acquisition. Like for what we say here is that first we buy the platform on which we are able to custom develop the requirements of the IMS. And so that platform is the one that costed us 142 million. The rest of it would be in consulting fees that would now develop the business processes of admission, detention, and release. And therefore, it has costed us 116. So the two figures, we add them together is. Chair, let me skip over the history of the IMS as such, but safe to say that the balance of the contract is about 126.8 million as per the original tender. That was not paid to the service provider, and therefore it is the subject of dispute that we have between us and the service provider. Safe to say that that dispute, Chair, it resulted into an arbitration matter. So the arbitration was declared by the service provider in January 2020. So, and it only, the arbitrator was only appointed in October of 2021. The first sitting was in June 2022. And it has since been postponed with the advice of legal counsel that we obtained an opinion on, with the aim of looking into an amicable alternative dispute resolution, which is currently underway. The aim, therefore, is to get maximum value for money. Chair, the next slide is talking to the IMS implementation, and that there were challenges during the IMS project. I missed the fact that we have already delivered successfully 44 sites of the unsentenced remand detail module. We do have human resource challenges, and also some of the modules were partially completed, so therefore they were not ready for rollout as yet. So they are partially completed at the end of the extension period or the end of the contract of the service provider. Next slide, Chair. It's evidence of all the sites where we have rolled out IMS. So this is the 44 sites, excluding Carolina, which was due to renovations. After that, even though it's open now, we haven't gone back to that site to re-roll out IMS once more. Next slide, Chair. It's an explanation of that list that the different financial years, how many sites we had rolled out, even cumulatively. And we further continue to indicate that mandatory functions are currently in use. And then you'll also find some of the secondary or supplementary functions within the IM system, sometimes not being used by other sites, but mainly by the other sites, but it's not really primary for them as such. So hence, depending on the dynamics of that particular center, you find that they're using more functions than the others, but there is your basic admission, detention, and release of remand detainees that is 100% in use. Chair, this slide is talking to the dispute resolution process between the department and the service provider, which arose as a result of delayed services. And as a result, also the department refused to pay where it deemed that services were not satisfactory. And we also got further intervention by the integrated justice system, which rose to the extended period of the 12 months, which ended in January 2020. And also that some provisions of the contract were also subjected to several interpretations, and therefore we did not see eye to eye with the service provider, and hence that the IJS intervention, where we were capacitated with more resources, with higher skills, to come and assist us with the rollout of the project. There were contractual disputes lodged, therefore, and the department defended those disputes through the office of the state attorney, and hence the arbitrator was appointed, and we have since been engaging in an amicable dispute resolution. Next slide, please. Thank you, Chair. So therefore, it comes to a point of saying where to from now that we know that IMS has been rolled out to those many number of sites, and also that there is also a dispute matter that is in place. So we also foresee the risk that the dispute resolution, because it has not been concluded as such, it may have favorable outcomes, or it could go the other way. And therefore, the department is looking into mitigation, the risk mitigations, that in case the dispute resolution process does not favor the department in a way that maximizes the value of IMS, we should still be able to extrapolate the benefits of or the development of the IMS as a development platform, and also do it internally with the help of a co-sourcing strategy, which basically includes appointment or recruitment of additional capacity to be able to support the IMS as well as to complete the remaining modules. This time around, basically, it means that we'll be using other resources, not the service provider that we are currently in dispute with. So we are hoping that at that time, that dispute resolution will be resolved. Chair, I think I'm going to, this should be the last slide. And I thank you. That is my submission. Back to the National Commission. Thank you.
National Commissioner.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. That is the presentation that we have prepared. We stand guided, Honorable Chairperson, and led. Thank you.
Thank you very much, National Commissioner. Members, that is the presentation on the integrated inmate management system. That is the progress report given by the Department of Correctional Services. Any comments or questions? Honorable Engelberg, Honorable Newbold-Drochen, Honorable Horn, in that order. Honorable Maseko, you will be the last. Honorable Engelberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In preparation for this meeting, I came across a couple of things that's not clear to me, and it might be a repeat for the committee, but I could not find a relevant documentation that could give me information. In 2016, National Treasury had a big thing about this specific contract, and it gave instruction for the cancellation of this contract in 2016, because according to them, the awarding of this specific tender was based on a very flawed process. Now, that on the one hand, so I don't know what the results were and why indeed this tender was proceeded with in the first place. Secondly, given the historic progress in the implementation, it seems that there's consistent failure to achieve targets. We know now there's contractual problems that the department experience in this contract with the dispute resolution and all the stuff that was just mentioned. And furthermore, I have a concern that I'm not convinced that the Department of Correctional Services has the in-house IT specialists at their disposal or in their employ that will enable the department to utilize the system if and when the day will arrive that the implementation of this has been concluded. So after the completion of this contract, I don't know how useful this would be for the department if they don't have the ability to utilize this, because it seems to me that it is rather complex and difficult. So I would like to know, is there a plan from the department to at least make use of this extremely expensive system that was installed? But I just think that this is probably a case of throwing good money after a bad idea. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Engelberg. I think since the National Commissioner is here, there is that correspondence you see me. I read it yesterday. I think it's quite urgent. As much as we have written to the Deputy Minister, I do think that the National Commissioner might be in a position to expedite that correspondence. He is here. Maybe you might alert him that you will be sending him that correspondence, Mr. Honorable Engelberg.
Sorry, Chair, you broke up a little bit there for me. Can you just repeat?
I was saying that since the National Commissioner is here, I think the correspondence you sent me yesterday that you sent to the DM, I think it might be expedited if it is brought to the attention of the National Commissioner, because it's an operational matter, the issue you raised about the people who wrote you a letter.
Yes, I do believe that the Deputy Minister did forward that to the National Commissioner, because he replied. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Newbold-Drochen. I was told that yesterday you called Honorable Newport Drankensberg.
Sorry, Chair, can you repeat?
I was told that yesterday in the House you called Honorable Drankensberg.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, Chairperson, please, never ask me to pronounce my two last names myself because I don't really know how to pronounce it. Yeah, if it's a Druchen or a Drucken or whatever, I don't know. But anyways, thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to everyone on the platform. Thank you for the presentation. As with Honorable Engelbrecht, I'm still very vague and unclear about this presentation. I wanted to ask my questions specifically regarding the dispute, but the presentation says the rollout was to 44 centers from 2017-18, and then it lists the various rollout sites and on every year. And to me, you know, it seems that it's working, and with the list of the rollout sites, but the department did not pay the service provider 126.8 million. Now, I'd like to know which year that is, because the presentation doesn't say which year this money was not paid out. So I'd like to have more details about the dispute, because in your presentation, you know, it says that it's carrying on 22-23. There's a few correctional centers that will be using where the EMS system will be rolled out, but I think the dispute needs more details. So does it mean that the 44 sites where it's already rolled out, the money, has the money not been paid, or has it been paid in bits, or is it completely held back? I'm a little bit vague on the whole issue with regard to the dispute. And then, sorry, Chair, another one, the presentation says, and I wanted to know specifically what you mean when it says a favorable outcome or the other route. That's not clear. Please explain to me what you mean with regard to that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Newport Drankensberg. Honorable Horn.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to the National Commissioner and his team. For who I have a small measure of sympathy, Chair, in the sense that this is, of course, a scrambled egg that or let's say an omelette that was made with scrambled eggs that has gone rotten before they became the chefs. So it is an inherited problem, but nonetheless, I align myself with the questions and the reservations expressed by my two other colleagues. And in addition to that, Chair, I must say that the presentation is not completely helpful for other reasons as well. The first is that, and I will repeat that again, given the fact that this is now the first meeting where the National Commissioner in his permanent capacity is leading a delegation on this issue. This committee has, over the last years, and specifically during this Parliament, consistently expressed the need for the department to make a final analysis as to whether it will be at all possible ultimately to roll out the integrated inmate management system at all correctional centers. Because there can never be an integrated inmate management system if it's only going to be partially rolled out. Now, if one looks at that list of 44 sites, it's quite clear just by a quick glance at it, that as National Treasury has warned, and the Honorable Engelbrecht has referred to that the rollout has been limited to bigger centers. The smaller centers, specifically in the more rural areas, has been untouched. So the question remains, to my mind, and we must repeat it today, whether the department has made that analysis as to whether there's any real possibility, reasonable possibility of ever rolling this out everywhere. And if it is a theoretical possibility, what is then the type of investment into IT related matters, network, and the type of coverage, the type of network coverage, which they will have to negotiate with service providers before this can ultimately be rolled out at all centers. So to my mind, that question remains. And while we suspect, the answer is that it will really never, in the current environment, with the current type of network coverage and which smaller towns in deep rural areas enjoy, then the answer must be, what is then plan B to get to an integrated inmate management system in some way or form? And up to now, the department has resisted, I want to say, the opinions of this committee in this regard, that you can't flog a dead horse. If you make the assessment that there's no reasonable possibility to roll it out everywhere, what is then the alternative? And again, I think we must ask those questions as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Horn. Honorable Masakajela.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Can I just switch off my video, Chair, with your permission? Good morning.
Proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chairperson, and also good morning, colleagues, and the National Commissioner and the team. Chairperson, the question that I wanted to ask, I think Honorable Holm just asked the question in another way, that I think even if I can ask it for now, maybe it is to enhance it, Chair. It is just from the National Commissioner. I think as a person who has just joined this department when this project was already on, with the challenges that they are now facing with the service provider. My question was going to be, does he maybe, I don't know if maybe he made the assessment as my colleague was just mentioning it. I was going to say, is there any possibility of maybe in his assessment of one day seeing this being completed, Chair? That is number one. Number two is that, is this service provider from South Africa, is it a South African company? Chairperson, I want to find out, because it's a very big project. A lot of money has been invested there. And with the money that is still outstanding, we might have not maybe lost money in terms of delaying the project, but now it seems as if we will have to spend money also on issues of litigations and misunderstandings, even time, where it's going to cost us time also, Chair. I just want to find out again that this project here, is it really going to in terms of employment, is it going to help us also to bring our young people in making sure that they also get experience? Because from what I heard from the presenter, they only bought, I was going to say they bought the heart. The whole issue of implementation and other difficulties or things that they are going to experience along the way, it will be within the department, if I heard it properly, Chair. So are we ready to make sure that we have a capacity to deal with those issues even in future? Because it's not going to be us implementing it. We want to also to see it being maintained going forward and making sure that we benefit out of what we've paid. I'm not sure if maybe I've sent the message that I wanted to say. Chair, the last question, if I may, I know it's not related to this, but I wanted to find out, if allowed, Chair, a question about the case that is now in public, where I think the family of the girl, the Gadi family, is now having, they've taken us to court because of one of the perpetrators among those people who murdered that little girl. It seems as if he was on parole. If can I get maybe background in terms of that? Was it true that that man was on parole? And Chair, it's that if maybe is going to be on the positive, it's going to take us back to the question that at some point that we have asked about the effectiveness of our rehabilitation programs that we have when it comes to these perpetrators, Chair. I'll stop there, Chairperson. Thank you. If I can get a brief, just a small and briefing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. But if they do not have that information, it will be understandable because they prepared on this progress report on the integrated inmate justice system. But if they do have the information, they can share it with us. If they don't, they can respond in writing to the last question. Will that be fine, Honorable Jelly?
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair. No problem.
Thank you very much, Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and good morning to everybody. Please forgive me, I'm driving, so there'll be quite a bit of background noise. I align myself with the comments of the previous speakers, and I'm very concerned, and I'd like perhaps more information on this aspect. I not only agree with the Honorable Inmate and the Honorable Horn that I foresee great difficulties with the rollout of this system as a complete system. I really don't believe that it can be rolled out everywhere, and if it can't be, then there's absolutely no point. And it's going to cost a vast amount of money, which I have serious doubts about whether it can be done. But if the department seriously suggesting that we roll out the system into correctional facilities that are so dysfunctional that they barely function, that are so broken that they should honestly be demolished and new ones built, would it not be a better long-term plan to first address the issues of dysfunctional correctional facilities and then worry about a high-tech system like the IMMA or the IIMA. Desirable as it may be to have it, and I agree that it would be. I just don't see how the facilities that we currently have will be able to support it. I just don't think it's possible to install it. So I'd like a little more information on that. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much. Over to you, National Commissioner, and to your team.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and let me also indicate that one appreciates the questions that has been asked and the comments by honorable members. I wanted to start with the issues raised by Honorable Breitenbach and indicate that yes, we face a very serious challenge of our facilities not performing at an optimal state, and it's because of various reasons. We can look at the infrastructure makeup, and one would not want to go into detail on that because honorable members are quite aware of the conditions, and even the recent inspections that the honorable members went through confirmed such. But also at the same time, on the side of our ICT capability, we also face those challenges, especially in the correctional facilities that are in the far-flung areas. Basic network problems, the fact that some of those facilities do not have cabling that allows them to also connect. There's no bandwidth. So those facilities do continue to struggle with connectivity. The solutions that we are currently providing are based on our Wi-Fi capability and the reach. So for us to roll out IMS to those facilities, of course, we also have to deal with the hardware side of things, because IMS comes on the side of a program, is the software side of things. So yes, we have to deal with our infrastructure capability on the IT platform. But let me also indicate, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, that we have to address those developmental challenges. At the same time, we also have to ensure that the department is put on a path to be on par with technological developments. The integrated inmate management system, or a system that can achieve an integrated way of collecting, capturing, managing, analyzing, disseminating, and applying the information that we have to management decisions at different levels is an important system that would not only save government money, but it will also reinforce the human resource numbers that we have on the ground. It will help us to also enhance our security operations, given that we are also looking at continuing to enhance security systems that are automated. So it is quite a task that is complex on the side of how do we then move forward to continue to modernize the correctional system. And yes, we always have to move with caution, especially when it comes to costs and also when it comes to projects like this, that from the planning stage, and the Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, on this one, I am now starting to just touch on the issues that were raised by Honorable Masiko Chele on the issue of the assessment that has been made. Even though not in depth, it became clear that the planning from the department with regards not only to IMS, but with regards to an IT system master plan was not in place when IMS was put through. It was put through as a central project without looking at the whole IT setup of the department and what then becomes the plan for the coming 20, 30 years. Because it is an integrated system, the view at that time in my assessment was that everything else that develops will then be linked to the system. I can give just a simple example. As I've already indicated, there are correctional facilities that we have to first deal with basic cabling and access to bandwidth or broadband or access to the network. Now, putting any system like this in place, at the same time having to deal with those challenges, for me, it's a function of an IT master plan. And that is what one is looking at working on. Hence, one has indicated to our G2 and also as part of our management discussions that we have to relook at all the IT projects and ensure that they fall within a master plan, which is already put in place. Mr. Mehwe will talk a little bit about that, and we can also present that to the portfolio committee in detail. Now, with regards to the IMS implementation itself and where it is, in the presentation, we are indicating that the contract was a contract for the amount of 378 million and 259 million was paid. The contract was to roll out systems in different applications. There's an application on remand detention. There's an application in the community correction space. There are applications in the incarceration and correction space. There you have your health pharmacy and other applications. But the point that I want to drive at, Honorable Chairperson, without being long-winded, is that the 68% that was paid by the department as part of the 378 million, which is the 259 million. When one looked at what is it that was commissioned, working at the moment, it is only the remand capability. That is the one that is rolled out in the I think it's the 44 correctional facilities that are mentioned in the presentation. I then asked the question, what happens to the other applications that were supposed to be rolled out? Because the assessment then is that out of the 259 million, the department is only benefiting 30%, which is the remand detention rollout and the other technical capabilities that are there that are generic, especially because there was a development of a development framework that was paid for. Now, this is the part that we as the department are saying, we need to make it a point that we get value for money. This company needs to either refund the department or they need to enable the department to commission the remainder out of the 259 paid. Apart from the fact that the department or we are not agreeing to pay the rest as it has been indicated in the presentation. Now that is where we are with regards to the arbitration process and the dispute resolution process. In further assessing the implementation of IMS, one discovered that the service provider's answer to only beneficiating to the department 30% is that they had developed a solution. The department was supposed to, together with them, test the solution and commission. And in line with the contract, that was not done, or the department did not give them an opportunity to do that In the presentation, it is indicated that the department did not have the capacity to do the testing. But by hindsight at that time, that capacity constraint should have been addressed, because in terms of the contract, the service provider argues that then, because they were not given an opportunity to test and co-test and commission, it then means that the remainder of the 259 was then deemed delivered. Because the question that I consistently asked is, why were they paid 259, which is 68% of the contract, when they did not give us a beneficiation of that 68%? So this is so the first approach here, honorable members and honorable chairperson, for me was to say, we need to get value for money. Government has spent money, either this service provider refunds the money or they do good with regards to that. Now, there are other technical issues that are characterizing this engagement. One of those is that there are binary codes that the service provider is supposed to provide to the department so we can commission. The solution that the department developed with this company is a unique solution. It was developed for the first time. There's no prototype of that solution in the market, or you can't get it off the shelf. Now that ties the department to this service provider with regards to the development stage, the commissioning. But Mr. Mekwe indicated that we are now implementing a co-sourcing strategy, which means that we are getting into the department technical skills that can then be able to operate, maintain, and sustain the system moving forward. But let me indicate, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, that the sticky issue for me, before we even go to the fact that we are not agreeing on paying the rest of the amount because the service provider argues that they have done all the work, the sticky issue for me is we need to get the beneficiation on the 259 because that is taxpayers' money that was spent. I must also indicate that there is an investigation that is referred to the SIU on the contract, and also as one entered into office, I was reported that the Hawks were also or are still looking into the contractual issues that Honorable Engelbrecht and Honorable Niveau Dregens raised with regards to Treasury's determination on the procurement process. So the Hawks are investigating that, and then the SIU is also doing an investigation with regards to value for money on this contract. I'm going to then request Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members that Mr. Mekwe and the colleagues then deal with the other issues that one has not touched on. On the issue of the letter of the email from Honorable Engelbrecht, I did receive the email last night, Honorable Chairperson. I responded to both Honorable Engelbrecht and the Deputy Minister. I am my aim is that by end of the day today, we should give at least a preliminary answer to Honorable Engelbrecht. And then on the issue of the legal challenge by the Gardi family, I am going to request, Honorable Chairperson, that we respond in writing. I have a report that I have submitted to the Minister and the Deputy Minister on this matter. It is a litigation matter, so the response also from the department needs to be measured with regards to how we then manage the risk of exposure on the side of litigation. Thank you for the opportunity, Honorable Chairperson. I apologize for being long-winded, but IMS is a very deep-seated and as I've indicated, sticky project that for the department to see the light out of it, there's a bit of work that needs to be done without repeating the same mistakes or doing the wrongs that the past has presented to us on this contract. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, National Commissioner. Mr. Mekha.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thank you, National Commissioner. Chair, National Commissioner has covered most of the questions that were raised by honorable members. I'm only going to pick on 2 or 3 just to complete the responses. The question on the outstanding amount, the question, I think it was about when was that amount due, if I understood it correctly, which year was the 126 million rand outstanding? My response to that question, Chair, is that first we said the total of the contract is 378 million. And up to so far, as at the end of January 2020, the total paid was 259 million. So therefore, that 126 million is as at the end of the contract. So that is that financial year of 2020-21. So that was the balance that was outstanding. I thought I should just clarify that. The next question was on the statement on favorable outcomes of the dispute resolution process. I did mention or stress more on the alternative that in case the dispute resolution process does not is not favorable, then we have a backup plan. We have got a plan B. But I did not emphasize on what is the ideal plan A that we are embarking on, or what we are hoping for to get out of that dispute resolution process. So in my response, I'm going to combine that with a question on costs of litigation. And Chair, the whole idea of entering into negotiations with the service provider during this arbitration process is to try and avoid the costs of litigation, because both parties believe that they've got their claims and counterclaims in order, and they are very much defendable. But when you look at the end of the day, the arbitration can decide otherwise. It can say, yes, service provider, you are quite correct, you deserve 126 million, therefore I make you the award. Then the department will be left worse off, because now we have lost 126 million to the service provider and still not have a value for money for the system. The other way is that the department can also win the case, and the arbitrator would award in favor of the department, saying that yes, we do have a defense here. The service provider did not do as good, so therefore their claims are now null and void. The department does not need to pay the service provider anything for that matter. But at the end of the day, even if we win the case, we are still left with a system that is not completed, and we have paid the bigger portion of the 259 million rand. So we are now left in that position where we're saying that let's look for a win-win situation, whereby this amicable dispute resolution process, at the forefront of it, it involves some remedial action from the service provider to say that in the case that we get to pay you the 126 million, but at least you're going to have to come and fix the issues that are still bugging us for the next, maybe I think we are suggesting a period of another 12 months, where the service provider will have to come and invest their resources and to fix whatever issues that we still have, and also complete the
outstanding modules that they have not completed. Therefore, the payment schedule will also be aligned to those deliverables. So we maintain, Chair, that we do not pay for services not rendered. That is the bottom line, and hence we are in this dispute, because we believe that if you have not rendered the service, then we are not paying you. And the service provider believes that they have rendered the services and therefore they are entitled to payment. And on that score, Chair, maybe the issue around how the 259 million was paid without having this kind of value, I think I would rather ask the committee to consider that development of a project of this magnitude, the payment schedule would be delivered, would be divided into, let's say, at least 4 milestones. One milestone is to acquire and develop the framework. The other one would be the system integration testing. The other one would be where business now test the functionality that it is developed according to their operations, their processes. And then lastly, it would be the rollout into operations. So therefore, the sum total of this 259 million would probably be up to business acceptance test level, but not to the rollout. In some modules, it only goes to the system integration test, but not the other 2 milestones. The other one is just acquisition and development, and there's nothing paid for that. So it will be the accumulation of those milestones that bring up to the 259 million. So as a result, the 126 million would account for that last leg of the implementation that will now unlock the value of the project. So now to be able to unlock that value, it will cost us a lot more if we were to start from scratch and discard the service provider and go back to the market and start the process again. So there is a very big comfort and confidence from our side that this system will succeed, the rollout will be there, and there's a lot of commitment from National Commissioner as well as the management of the department that the system needs to be supported, the efforts in terms of the dispute resolution needs to be supported, and we've given ourselves a very short time frame to be able to engage CETA and finalize this dispute resolution of ours, and also engage with the Treasury to make sure that everything is above board, so that we are able to derive maximum value out of this project. In terms of the rollout to the bigger and the smaller centers, Chair, the list of the 44 sites that we have highlighted earlier, that is a mixture of all the big sites and the medium size as well as the small size. So it is a mixture of all sizes in there. For instance, in all the Gauteng centers, we've got sites that even has got about 50 remand detainees that the site is working at one of the lowest bandwidths that we get, which is a 1 meg line. The challenges with the sites that are in the rural areas, specifically, like Honorable Member has mentioned. I'm going to make an example of the sites in Eastern Cape. Those sites are, we've got challenges with not only the cabling, but the data line from CETA to those sites. That those data lines have not been kept, and therefore they are there's a cable theft that keeps going on in those sites. So those are the sites that gives us the biggest of the challenges. But where there's a minimum bandwidth of the 1 meg line, the system is able to roll out successfully. And we have done that in many of the sites successfully as per that listing that we have provided to the committee. Chair, I think those are the only ones that I needed to address. Yes, the service provider is a South African company. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is that the end? Honorable Nivo Trochen. Followed by Honorable Jala.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you for the responses from the department. I'm becoming a little bit worried maybe that there might not be a win-win situation here, but we'll have to wait and see how the dispute resolution works out. But I wanted to ask, now that you've answered the Honorable Jele's question that the service provider is a South African company. Now, my question, because the prisons, are also in the rural areas or the centers are also in the rural areas, and each rural area might have difficulty with connectivity. I wanted to ask whether the service provider has the capacity to ensure that it can be rolled out into all the centers. And I'm also trying to understand why the other apps have not been done, even though the money has been paid. I'm worried that what happens if the other apps that have been developed but not been distributed or rolled out, and then also if the dispute resolution happens and the service provider finishes the job, I want to know whether that same service provider will then stay with you to operate the system throughout, or will there be training given to the officials in DCS to continue with the operating of the system, of the EAMS system? Who is going to continue running this system afterwards? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Chair, thank you, Honorable Trochen.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think Honorable Belma really covered me so much, Chair, with my follow-up questions. I think, Chair, the more the department explained to us exactly the deeper the problem in terms of this project, it really brings shivering feelings to some of us, Chair, especially with the money that we have already paid. The reason why I asked if this company was a South African company, it was precisely because of that system. I wanted to find out if we have problems of this system in future. Are we still going to wait for these guys from Germany to come and fix this thing and all those things? But now I'm answered. And it's even worse, Chair, to learn that this system was created for the first time. It's like it's something that was meant for us, and it was meant for the first time. And it was, to me, it is just like it was going to be a project from that project, the service provider. If it doesn't work, it is like we were going to incur the cost and everything wrong about this thing, because it has never been tested anyway. It was meant for us. Wes now, he wants the whole amount to be given to him, Chair, without even having covered 50% of the work that he was contracted for. I think, Chair, these service providers are taking us for a ride. It's a lot of money that has been given to the service provider, chairperson. They're taking advantage of the department. I'm not sure indeed how are we going to assist the department with this one. Because to me, if Mr. Mekwe, I don't know, but the presenter, the one that was just presenting now, says we are on the mercy of the dispute resolution team. It is even worse. It makes me feel even worse, Chair, scared that if they are saying we must pay them, it means that we have paid for something. We have just, it is a wasteful expenditure. So I'm not sure from here, Chair, we will have to wait for the outcome of those, because the 12 months that we are talking about, it is the 12 months that includes also this negotiations of the what is it, the dispute, because we are still there, we're still waiting for an answer, and 12 months is going. So by the time we arrive at 12 months, you find that you are left with little time, and what's going to happen? So I think this is really a very serious problem, money wasted. I don't know how we're going to get out of this. I just don't know. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. National Commissioner and Mr. Mekwe, since this system is tailor-made for us and is the first one, who owns the IP for it? In case it becomes successful and even other countries want it, who owns the IP for this system?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'm going to request that Mr. Mekwe responds first, and I will then come after you. With your permission, Honorable Chairperson.
Yes. Maybe I should ask all my questions so that you respond to them. That was the first one. Then the second one is this initiation of the appointment of the arbitrator. The process was started in 2020, and the arbitrator started working in 2022. And the reason given is that it's because of COVID, that the state attorney's office could not finalize the appointment of the arbitrator. That is one, because if that is the case, I do think that the state attorney's office would need, the Solicitor General would need to explain himself. Everybody was working. It does not mean that nobody was working during COVID. People were working, and I don't think that it needed people to go out in the street to appoint administrators, arbitrators, or even counsel. It's not true. It's an abuse of COVID. It's a serious abuse of COVID. I do think that we would want to flag that one as to why did it take so long for an arbitrator to be appointed. And then also yourselves, you're saying that you could not appoint staff because of COVID. When we have done interviews here online, we have been meeting even with yourselves online. Why was that not done? And then why was the GTO structure not finalized? So far, I think when I read this presentation, it has not been finalized. When are you going to finalize this structure for submission, so that we can also see how is that GTO structure capacitated? Over to you, National Commissioner.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. As I indicated, I request that Mr. Mkhwe starts first. I will then respond after him.
Mr. Mkhwe?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, National Commissioner. Let me try and be short and go straight to the questions. The first one that I noted was, does the service provider have capacity to roll out to all the sites? Honorable Chair, the rollout becomes the responsibility of the department. And we did not contract the service provider to roll out to all the sites. We only contracted them to roll out to the first year of rollout, where I think in the contract it stated two sites of rollout, which basically means that we'll be rolling out together, and as GTO we will understand how the rollout is done, how the system is done, and then the rest of it we'll be able to do it ourselves. And based on that, Chair, the service provider did also assist us roll out to 9 sites over and above the 2 contracted sites that they were contracted for. So they assisted us to roll out to 9 sites in the first year. So since then, the department has been able to roll out on its own, given its own limited capacity. We're able to roll out on our own. So it's not a rollout is not a problem. We've got an internal team that would take anything from 1 week to 3 weeks, depending on the size of the size that we are rolling out to. So the rolling out, it's not a risk, it's not a problem. We do that ourselves. That also coincides, Chair, with the question of the IP, who owns the IP. And we therefore constructed the contract exactly for that reason, to say that we should not give the service provider everything that they must do. So therefore, in terms of the bid, we said the department owns the IP. And as a result, they are able to develop, show us how to develop, show us how to roll out. The rest is up to us to do. And therefore, with that IP, we are making sure that the system remains the asset of the department, that the department is able to maintain and support itself without relying on the service provider forever. But then, of course, as part of the development framework, is made up of multiple technological components. There are certain components that do not belong to the service provider, but they belong to the manufacturers of those particular components. So those are the only ones, but service provider also hands over the licenses, so that we are able to engage directly with the manufacturers of those particular components. So therefore, we are not locked in or married to the service provider forever. After handover, we own everything except what belongs to original license of the manufacturer. So I think I've covered all the 3 questions altogether. I will leave the other ones of the state attorney and appointment of staff to the National Commissioner. Thank you, Honorable Chair. If I missed out anything, you will advise. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The issue of the state attorney is what one will follow up. But as the Honorable Chairperson indicated, yes, all government departments were operating, albeit at a risk management capacity during the time of the heightened time of COVID-19. With regards to appointment of staff in the department, yes, there were interviews that were were going on during that time, albeit the risk management strategy, as one has indicated. There are appointments that were made. The only thing is that we experienced the resignation of the Chief Deputy Commissioner responsible for IT, or our GTO, during the same period. With regards to the structure, Honorable Chairperson, was approved by the Minister for consultation with the labor unions. That has happened. We have worked out also the confirmation of the budget. The only thing that is remaining now is for us to resubmit again to the minister the final structure for submission to Treasury and the GPSA for certification. The filling of posts was not also moving at the pace that it was supposed to move because of the budgetary constraints and the fact that we were implementing the human resource budgeting tool as guided by Treasury. There was a moratorium that was put in place on the filling of posts. That moratorium was lifted after October 2021, when one took over as the acting national commissioner. As it stands, we have advertised all critical positions at lower, middle, and top management, and we are now starting a process of filling all those positions. So, in a few months or so, we would have reduced the vacancy rate of the department drastically. We're looking at a situation where in all our correctional facilities, management areas, and even at head office, at least middle management and top management will be, those positions will be filled, in as much as we will also be recruiting the new recruits that we'll be advertising for in the coming 2 weeks or so. So that is what one can provide as an answer, Honorable Chairperson. And then there was an issue raised by, or the input raised by Honorable Masiko Jele with regards to, us not seeing the horizon with regards to the implementation of IMS, and also the issue of wasteful expenditure, wasteful and fruitless expenditure. That is exactly my quest, Honorable Chairperson, as the accounting officer, that whatever amounts have been spent on this contract, they need to be matched by value that the department realizes. Whether it is out of the arbitration process or out of any engagement that is led by our legal counsel and the Office of the State Attorney, one wants to make sure that this company doesn't go away with having taken money from government with non-performance. But apart from that, I did indicate that we are working together with the law enforcement agencies, the SIU and the Hawks, with regards to their investigations on the contracting and how the project was managed. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much. There is a question asked by Honorable Jele. It's a written question. I'm not sure whether you have seen it, on the procedures that were entered into in making sure that we officially own the IP.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I've seen the question. I will request Mr. Mehmet to just deal with it technically. Thank you, Honorable.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, National Commissioner. The procedures that we underwent to make sure that we own the IP it was initially thought out and put into the terms of reference of the bid specification. So therefore, it was a requirement within the bid specification that what the department acquires, it will belong to the department. Hence, I was mentioning earlier that some of the disputes in contract, this where all of a sudden the service provider thinks that we do not have access to the IP, but then we show them in terms of our terms of reference and also in terms of the SLA that we signed, that it does talk to it that we own the IP, subject to those components that are not the service provider as a manufacturer, so they're only owned by the manufacturer. Like for instance, the platform is developed on a .NET framework. So the .NET is owned by Microsoft. So we will never be able to own the IP of that, and neither does the service provider do that. So hence we're saying that as soon as the service provider hands over, we automatically own the IP, and therefore we do not need to deal with the service provider as they do not own the development framework, and we are able to maintain and support the system directly ourselves, as well as in conjunction with the manufacturers of those particular components of technology. But then again, some of those were bound to come out during the arbitration process or during the litigation, where the service provider can also make an assessment, an assertion that no, they own here, they own there, they own there, and then we'll be able to deal with them on that basis. That, but look at our terms of reference, look at the contract that we signed with you. Can the court assist us, make sure that the service provider understands what we acquired from them? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. The question asked by Honorable Engelbrecht, I think was the first question, was did at any point National Treasury give you a condonation after it said that the contract did not follow the right procedure? National Commissioner?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'm going to request that Mr. Mukwe answers the question. He was part of the team that originated the contract.
Mr. Mukwe?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, National Commissioner. I think, yeah, so basically what happened at the time is that National Treasury came in as an observer during our bid evaluation process. And then later on, they elevated into making an observation, which became kind of like an instruction, or it was an advice. So there was no clarity as to whether was the Treasury actually giving the department an instruction. So that matter served before the court I think it was the Pretoria High Court that was supposed to make a determination as to whether what National Treasury was saying to us, was it an instruction based on its mandate, or was it an advice from one minister to the other minister? So that matter has not been finalized, it's still in court. And the contract was never declared to be illegal. It was never cancelled because we were not advised finally by the courts. So there was no need to obtain condonation on the basis of cancellation. However, there was a need to obtain condonation on the basis of the findings of the Auditor General, not the National Treasury, but on the findings of the Auditor General. So the findings of the Auditor General was such that we did not involve SITA as a procurement agency when we acquired the product. And also at the time of awarding the bid, we did not, so it was like we did not ask the service provider to furnish us with the latest tax clearance certificate. So those were the only two things that were specifically highlighted by the Auditor General. And hence we undertook that condemnation process through SITA and also through the ministry that was responsible for SITA. At the time, it was DTPSA. Yes. And then I think over the number of years that we have been awaiting a response on that, SITA gave us the support that the minister may grant us the condonation. But I think 2-3 years later, then the matter was now referred from that ministry to Treasury. I think the key question to be asked there was, which minister actually has got the authority to grant the condonation? Was it the Minister for Department of Post and Telecommunications, or was it the Minister of Finance overseeing the Treasury? So I think, Chair, the matter ended somewhere there. We still have not received an affirmation of whether we have a condonation or not. So it's still hanging, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
So, Chair, in line with what we have just received, so all that we have done was done without condonation, and the monies were paid without having all that was necessary to make sure that this project is implemented. So my question was going to be, if also we are saying we are owning IP, according to the explanation that we have just received, with the cloud that is on top of that, on top of us, on top of this project, the question is that, are we really supposed to continue with this officially, or were we supposed to, are we supposed to hold this project? Or, because now, Chair, we are left with 1.6 million that has to go under bridge on top of what we have paid. I don't know whether maybe the term that I'm using is right or what, but I'm saying, Chair, with the amount that we have, with the cloud that we have, what is the implication of us having to go on with this project?
Thank you very much. National Commissioner.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and also to Honorable Maseko Chele. We are left with, I think, 126 million that is of contest to the two parties in legal processes. I have indicated that out of the 259, which makes 68% of the amount paid, the beneficiation to the department was around 30%. That's the part that one is worried about, that it should not go into the space of wasteful and fruitless expenditure. Mr. Mikwe explained that the issues raised by the Minister of Treasury in the letter were subjected to litigation processes that are not finalized between the service provider and the National Treasury. At the same time, the department then continued to implement this contract with the understanding that they saw it at that time to be a contract that is above board, as Mr. Mikwe explained. So the whole implementation of the contract and what is remaining is still in the litigation space. Hence, even ourselves at the moment, we are between the implementation and the arbitration process. And as advised, we are engaging to see what value we can draw out of the contract. The main aim being to ensure that we end up having the system working. And I indicated that this we will do without further compromising governance and within the legal framework. Now, with regards to timeframes, one did not look at this legal rankings going beyond the month of January. One was looking at a situation where before we get to the end of December, at least it will be very clear whether we just put everything down, of course, with the involvement of Treasury and CETA, and fold the project, or we get to derive value out of what the government has already paid. And the alternative, as Mr. Miho indicated, is that we are at the moment sourcing additional capacity in the department for us to be able to do the rollout. So basically, that's how one can sum it up, Honorable Chairperson. I indicated earlier on that by hindsight, there were management decisions that the department could have taken better, including, for instance, in my view, not continuing with the contract that was already entangled in litigation processes between the service provider and Treasury. At that time, I think my view would have been that the contract is put aside until those legal processes are exhausted. But that view was answered by colleagues in the department by saying that the service provider also was taking the department to court wanting specific performance on the contract. Hence, the department then continued to implement the contract with a view that as time goes on, the legal issues will then be resolved. But as I said earlier, Honorable Chairperson, that then becomes my assessment. The issues that I'm raising in concession, they then become my assessment. And these are the mistakes that, in my view, should not be and will not be committed moving forward. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nivot, followed by Honorable China.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. And I do have a question that I actually want to keep until the dispute resolution process has been resolved or has been completed. So I would like to request that we get an update from the department after the dispute resolution processes have been completed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chair.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I support that view also. And also, I'm adding on what the Commissioner just gave us information that the advice of the department to go on, it was not something that was coming officially from the relevant structures that are supposed to give us go ahead. It was the officials that said the service provider is taking them to court. And we don't have that information that indeed that service provider took them to court in line with it's like forcing them for that performance. So it means after, when we get that report that Honorable Nivot is talking about, is I also would like to get the report on those officials that made us to be where we are. I think there must be a consequence management chairperson that has to be taken in terms of this. If we are going to lose as a department, lose monies, a wasteful expenditure, somebody must take responsibility of this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, I think that was the last speaker. I think firstly, the National Commissioner has raised issues, I think important observations, which I think in line with the suggestions made by Honorable Nilwood Johan and supported by Honorable Jailer. It would be important that they come back next year, because it will be important that we see how does this fit in the master plan, which the National Commissioner talked about. I assume, National Commissioner, that the master plan is there?
Yes, Honorable Chairperson.
Yes, so we would like to get an update on the whole master plan and how does this thing fit in the master, how does this integrated inmate management system fit there, and the critical issues that you have really raised, because it would be important to have a system that will be able to withstand or be amenable to technological developments. Whether this system, if in the next 2, 5, 10 years, if there are serious changes in the technological environment, whether this system is developed such that it is upgradable. So it will be important that we get that particular briefing, which I think by that time the legal processes would have been concluded, which is the arbitration process, because it's supposed to be much quicker than the court processes, that it would have been concluded. And then we would, I think, National Commissioner, because you are still new there, I think you can make a follow-up on the issue that was raised by Honorable Chele. The last one that was raised, if there was, how was this decision taken? I think you can make a follow-up on that one. But I also do think that at some point the subcommittee or the full committee would need to have a discussion on this matter outside of the department, and just to have a political discussion, maybe before the department comes and present. We, on the basis of what we have had, whether we would require any other information to be presented, because I get a sense that the National Treasury has a view, the department had a view, the matters in court, that maybe we might need to get a proper briefing around those issues and allow the court processes in some respect to be concluded. But I think it is important that we have a discussion alone as the committee before we receive that particular update, because even 126 million in 2021, in terms of its value in 2023 or 2023, in terms of its value, it will not be 126 million. The inflation would have kicked in and all of those things. So there is an opportunity cost that is involved, which I think has not been quantified. The opportunity costs created by these delays, as to what are the opportunity, maybe a quantification of those opportunity costs. I will advise the chair of the subcommittee about the approach that we, firstly, is that in order, members? Or members would like to add some certain
in order,
things?
Chair.
It's in
In order,
order.
Chair.
Okay. Members of the opposition, are you fine?
Yes, yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much. I would advise the chair of the subcommittee about these developments, about this report that we have received, and the issues that arose, and the fact that we need a further briefing sometime next year. And we also need to have a discussion as a committee about some of the issues that we had today. Thank you very much, members. Honorable Reitenbach and Honorable the chair of the subcommittee, maybe if whether Tuesday or Wednesday, if you can brief us about the arrangements and how the meeting on the 11th is going to be conducted. We are relying on you, on yourselves to lead us. Maybe if you can make after just a quick briefing after we have done our committee work about the workshop, we would like to get a briefing so that we know who's doing what. So the leaders for this project is yourself and Honorable Janji.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. We've decided that that the Honourable Maseko Jeli and the Honourable Engelbrecht will do everything. But we'll tell you what they're going to do. No, we'll give you a brief, not to worry.
Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.
Hello.
Thank you, Honourable Chair.